So today's topic is something that I call looking for the good. Most of us have our share of pluses and minuses in life. Most of us have our share of successes and failures. Most of us have our share of good and bad. Now, granted, okay, it's not a black and white situation. It's never all good or all bad. Okay. Now understand that most things are not black and white situations. In other words, very few things in life are all good or all bad or all black or all white. Most things are shades of gray. And in my situation, most things are all the colors of the rainbow. Okay. Now here's the thing. Okay. What I want to talk about today is looking for the good, because generally what we seek is what we find. And so if you look for the good in situations, you will often find the good. Or if you look for the good, you will often find good in addition to your situation, which may or may not be ideal. Okay? I have a lot of crazy shit that happens to me, okay? And that's both good and bad. I have had a lot of experiences that I could talk for weeks on end and never get tired of telling you the crazy things that have happened in my life. Again, good and bad. I have a friend named Mike who described it best when he said, you never just have a day. Like, you never just have a day. You always have something crazy that happens, whether it be something positive or something negative, but it's always in like level 10, pendulum swinging from side to side. You never just have a day, and I never just have a day, okay? And even in the course of any given day, I will have 10 things go on that are amazing, and I'll have 10 things that'll go on that you say like, my God, what is God trying to tell me with this? Or what is the universe trying to tell me? Or what lesson can I take from this? And I still haven't figured it out, but I think I have a clue, and I'm going to share that with you. At this time, okay, during the time of this boot camp creation, okay, boot camp has been during the time of this online program creation, okay, things have been particularly elevated, escalated, intensified, etc., etc., etc. Sleeping an hour or two a night can do that to you. However, okay, I have this kind of insane list of things that have happened that are amazing, that send me feedback that says I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right things, I'm looking in the right directions, I'm associating with the right people. And on the flip side, I have all these things that say like, oh my God, like this is insane. People criticizing me for this or that or the other thing. But again, like Mike says, I never just have a day. Okay. All that being said, I love it all. Okay. I love it all. Not that I love when something horrible happens. Okay. But I take the bad with the good, and I tend to focus on the good. And I focus on the bad sometimes as more of a comedic as more of a comedic release is what I'm trying to say. Because some of these stories, as crazy as they are, they're funny too in hindsight, okay? Like the other day when Kiddo got off her leash when we were walking on Madison Avenue, and as terrifying and death-defying and crazy and anxiety-provoking and terror-provoking, really, as it was to chase my dog around Manhattan, in hindsight, you say, oh my God. And it's kind of like these crazy, like Scooby-Doo adventures where like things go bananas for like most of the show, and then in the end, you're like, oh, thank God. I'm not here to talk about myself all night. What I'm here to say is that seek and ye shall find. If you look for the good, I believe you will often find the good. If you want to focus on the negative, you can find and remain fixated on the negative. Like, as an example, there are times where I do something. I create a piece of work, whether it be academic work or clinical work or art or fashion or something of that nature. And whereas I wouldn't necessarily call it perfect, or sometimes I will call it perfect, there will be somebody who says, you know what, they will take the 10% of it, and they will make that 10% that maybe was not ideal and make that 90% of the story. I'm sure you know people like this. You may even be somebody like this, but I am telling you to write your own story, and write your story in a way that it reflects who you are and who you want to be. Okay, if you want to write a horror story every day, you will find that horror story. If you want to find a mystery story, you will make a mystery story. If you want to make a funny, humorous, sitcom-like story, well, that's there too. But a lot of this has to do with your own attitude, and a lot of this has to do with how you choose to adjust your lens, okay? When it comes to patient care, and I really think that you can apply this to many, many different situations in life. I think it's a metaphor for many things in life, but let me tell you a little bit about how we run our practice, okay? 95% of our patients are lovely, wonderful, kind, intelligent, contemporary, pleasant people to deal with, okay? 95% is a high percentage, so I am thankful for that. The 5% are anywhere from mildly annoying to incredibly rude, inappropriate, entitled, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to give you a business lesson now too for anyone who owns a business, okay? My staff is great at dealing with difficult people, okay? And we get it. I mean, we understand that, very often people come in, they don't feel well, they're anxious, they're upset, they're short of breath, they're scared, they're irritated, they've had bad experiences in the medical world before, and they're coming in kind of ready for action in not the best way, right? But my staff is trained specifically to deal with these people and diffuse these bombs, okay? Diffuse these bombs. There are a couple of books, and I'm going to tell you about these books as a way of, kind of giving you our philosophy on patient care. One of them I've told you about before, and it's called 9.5 Things That You Would Do Differently If Disney Ran Your Hospital. The other one is the Ritz-Carlton Training Manual. Okay, and the reason why I use the Ritz-Carlton Training Manual to train my staff, and the reason why I insist that my staff stays at the Ritz-Carlton when they travel, okay, is because I want them to understand what the utmost level of service feels like, so that they know how to provide that utmost level of service to our patients, in addition to top-notch rehabilitation services, okay? But a lot of people never get that opportunity to eat in a 5-star restaurant. A lot of people never get that opportunity to stay in a 5-star hotel, okay? And who knows? Maybe my staff would, maybe they wouldn't choose to, okay? But when we do, I want them to understand what it feels like to have the entire operation and the entire service, okay, geared towards your comfort and your satisfaction and your happiness from the service perspective, but also the humanities perspective. And the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that it's so much easier to do things the right way right from the beginning. It's so much easier to do things at level 100% from the beginning. And it's so much easier to treat people like kings and queens from the beginning. Because if you don't do it that way, or if you try to skimp on service, or if you try to cut things short, or this and that and the other things, or you try to, impose your will in certain ways, guess what? You wind up paying for it in other ways. And you wind up paying for it in ways of conflict. You wind up paying for it in times of having to do the work more than once. And what am I talking about? So as an example, we have a way of explaining things to people. When somebody comes in to our practice, we explain every aspect of our practice that they might encounter, so that they can never say to us, "You didn't tell me that." Now, it doesn't mean they're not going to forget it, or that they're not going to have the question again, or that they're not going to have other questions. But the idea is it sends a message to them that we care about them being active participants in their care, okay? And by doing things that way, we diffuse any anxieties, apprehensions, negative feelings, etc., 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 about rehab, about patient care, about finances, about anything, by treating them better than they've been treated all day that day and maybe even the week before. And by doing things that way, by going the extra mile, trust me, you save yourself the requirement of having to do it again, or having to, look, we've all been places when we know somebody is trying hard not to provide us with excellent care. And whether that has to do with their own feelings about being subservient, or their own, frustrations with various things, or not wanting to be where they are at that moment, okay? We know what it feels like when somebody's not trying to provide us, or when they're not trying to provide us with excellent care. Listen to what I'm saying, because there's a difference between not trying to provide you with excellent care and specifically trying not to provide you with excellent care. I've been to some of those places, and that's the place you go and they say, sit over there, I'll get to you when I get to you, okay? So the idea is, put out in the world what you want to get back in the world. Seek and ye shall find. If you want to be treated beautifully, treat others beautifully, okay? And I'm not saying that everything I do is perfect, and I'm not saying that everybody treats me beautifully, but more often than not, I am involved in situations that are really great, and that people, show me things and do things for me, and are willing to do things that they wouldn't normally do in other situations. And that has a lot to do with what I and my team put out in the world. I want to just give you one example of that. There's somebody who sent me something that said, Dr. Noah Greenspan, this is a box of thanksgiving, gratitude for taking time to talk to me, providing advice and compassion, giving strings of fishes just because. And that came in a box that was filled to the brim of things like this, okay? Strings of fishes that this person made. And this is a person that I never even met before, okay? And let me tell you that person, okay, also my first encounter with her happened about a year or two ago when I got this box. And instead of those fish like that, it was a box of dozens of origami fish that she made for me, with the idea, and she told me that she watched every one of my webinars and she made me one fish for each webinar. Again, why do I tell you this story? Not to say, oh, you're great. Not to tell you to send me things. Send me things, send me things, send me. Just kidding. But the idea is to say that I don't wake up in the morning expecting anyone to give me something for free, or expecting somebody to do something for. I just wake up without expectations, okay? Because I've learned that when you expect of others, okay, sometimes it comes through and sometimes it doesn't come through. And when it doesn't come through, that could be painful, okay? But what I learned a long time ago was that when I lower my expectations of others and raise my standards of what I am willing to do for others and what I am willing to give to others with zero expectation of anything in return, well, guess what? That's when the returns come in. It's like you're playing the slot machines, and just when you think it's over, jackpot, okay? And that can happen to you too, okay? By lowering your expectation. And that's not to say, hey, accept crap. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying accept excellence, but give excellence, or give excellence, and then over time, I guarantee you, you will expect excellence. Receive excellence, okay? But what I'm also saying is that give yourself that excellent care. Give yourself that 5-star treatment. Give yourself that Ritz-Carlton treatment and service. And give your body that excellent care and that 5-star service. Give your body that excellent care, and your body will start to reward you with, if not excellent, certainly better than we are now type of care, okay? But again, what you put out in the world will come back to you, and what you put into your body will come back to you, okay? I want to just go back to one thing I said before, which is when I said we have 95% beautiful patients, okay? When we see people who are difficult, okay, we have a little different rule. You know, there are people who live and die by the rule, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? We have a different rule, okay? We have a rule which is that the squeaky wheel doesn't get the grease, okay? And what I mean by that is that if you allow negative energies and negative people and negative behaviors to take up 95% of your energy, time, effort, etc., 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 when they're really only 5% of your being. If you allow this 5% of negativity to pervade 95% of your being, well, guess what? Your whole being is messed up when it didn't have to be. And so what I'm saying for this, and the metaphor or the parallel is, if we take all of our time, if we take 95% of our time to tend to these 5% of difficult people who, guess what, are never going to be satisfied anyway, and who, no matter what we do, are going to still want more, well, then guess what? We're going to turn off the 95% of our wonderful patients. And now check this out, because here is the final lesson, okay? If you allow 5% of your problem to pervade 95% of your time, your energy, your conversation, your thoughts, your feelings, etc., 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 well, guess what? 95% of your being is now tarnished by that 5% of your existence. So what I'm saying to you is, let those 5% go. Let that 5% go. I encourage them to go. You're not happy here? It's okay. No hard feelings. Let me give you a list of places where I think you may be happy, or at least will be happy that you're there. Okay? The idea is you can choose what to focus on. Okay? And even if you're in the hospital, even if you're sick, even if you're in the middle of an exacerbation, even if you're this, that, and the other thing, life is still beautiful. And there are still things that you can focus on. And there are things that you can focus on. So which ones are you going to focus on? Okay? Again, don't give the squeaky wheel the grease. Okay? Take care of the 3 other wheels that have provided you and will continue to provide you with positive energy and positive relationships and positive existence and positive recognized as positive. Okay, that's why you see teams that are great together. You see teams that are full of great people, and then you see crappy teams where everyone on the team is sloppier than the next. Okay, so summarizing right now, 5% of my existence is difficult. 95% is not difficult. If I focus 95% of my energy on the 5% difficult things, it ruins the other 95% of the good things. If I focus 95% of my energy on my more difficult patients that will never be satisfied under any circumstances, well, guess what? Because that's what it takes. It takes 95% of your energy to deal with those 5%. Well, then guess what? I would never have the success I have with those other 95% of the patients. And it's the same thing with your energy, okay? Don't focus on the 5% that you have. Don't focus on the hangnail that's painful. Yeah, it's painful, but you got 99% of your body that's not a hangnail, right? Focus on that. Focus on the good. Set yourself up for success. Surround yourself with positive people. Focus on the positive. Adjust your lens for success. Think about it. Think about it. And start asking yourself, when a powerful thought comes into your head, is that thought a positive one or is that thought a negative one? And here's a time where assessment is important. You have to be honest with yourself and you have to say, am I that person who's always got something negative to say? Am I that person that no matter how beautiful a painting is, I am going to point out the part where a little bit of paint smudged? Maybe you are, and if you are, then that is a time for you to recognize that it's time for autobiography in 5 short chapters. And you need to say, why am I always thinking that? Why can I watch a beautiful ballet performance and make a comment about the ballerina's teeth? Why? And awareness is the first step in change. And once I'm aware of my behavior, I can start to shift it. And guess what? Over time, your chemistry changes and your brain changes and your body changes and your thoughts change and your feeling change, okay? Happy. Not Pollyanna happy, real life happy. Choose what to focus on. Focus on the things you can do. And as John Wooden says, don't let the things that you can't do interfere with the things that you can do. Don't allow the negative things in your life interfere and get in the way of the positive things in your life, okay? Have a great one, my friends.